Hello, everyone. Don't know if y'all still in there, but hey, bet you're not. Oh, I should probably do a. If you are catching the replay of this, I am not a trained historian. I only am going to share facts that I think are either funny or bad. I have a lot to work with. So please don't set your child in front of this and go, he's going to teach you about George the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, and the Ninth. I'm not. Avion Clancy, the hell you been, boy? Hey, Rumor. We're going through Shannon's dive through history. The Windsors, the train wreck that will not stop. And I'm here for it. Oh, thank you, Senator Girl. Yeah, don't do that. Don't set your kids and go, here we go. She's going to tell you everything you need to know. I am not. I'm not going to do that. And I've got my last little notebook here. I've got to order more notebooks from Walmart. And I've got like 6 different Plurpy. Yeah. Tonight I'm going to go from George V, okay, to the when Wallis was introduced to Edward for the first time by his married mistress. So where we go from there, the next week will be the courtship, the abdication, the Nazis. I probably would just will ride that straight on to their death. I don't really know. Hello, Granny Grinch. Yeah. So again, I'm just pulling stuff out of history. I'm not, right here, I'm concentrating really on George V, Mary, the Queen, St. Elmo's Fire. Oh, God. Then you might be absent. Listen, I love everything about royalty anywhere, but especially the UK. So I made my way up, got to Henry VIII, with all of his wives, right? The 2 daughters that were a flash, it's all gravy, baby. To his daughters, who had issues. Both of them had issues. We'll just say that. And then I just like to go around. I'm going to grab some Habsburgs. If y'all don't know who they are, look up Habsburg and you'll see that chin. You'll know exactly who that is. So I'm going to go through briefly. This ain't going to take long. I feel like I'm from there. I feel like I'm supposed to be there. Damn it. And look, y'all know every time I mention the Duke of Windsor or that whore wife of his, well, I do that. I cannot stand that woman. I've got so many books over here about that woman. That's the only thing that the Queen Mother ever called her, was that woman. So we're going to go through King George's 5 children briefly. I'm going to tell you about Prince John, who died when he was 13. And I'm going to, Edward. Yeah, they're all related, honey. Kate Middleton is even in there somewhere. She wasn't even, royal, but I'm going to take you through. Edward was a little shit. I hate to break it to you. He was stupid. He was a racist of the utmost. I mean, he and Wallis were. I'm gonna read you some. If I guess I can find them all. Some of his quotes from the travels that he took around their kingdom. And he was, and I guess back then, obviously, you didn't always call, but he was dumb enough to write his mistress, Frida Dudley Ward, who was his mistress for 16 years. And I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what either of them were thinking. But that's just me. I mean, I guess I know what Peggy, hey, Freeside, I know what she was thinking. All the mistresses, I guess I know. I don't really know. No, I don't know. I don't know. And the last mistress that he had that introduced him to Wallis Simpson, look. We're going to go through their pictures. I'm going to set a goal of 5 super chats. $5 or higher. Nope. I'm going to go $10. So, okay. That's what I'm going to do. I don't care. I'm going to do it. Wait a minute. What do I have to do? Timer. This is all stupid. Show how you'll celebrate. Hair. That's all I'm going to put. Hair. There, let me do it. And let me run a banner. Hold on. I've made banners and I forget all about them. Let me see. Gosh, I'm weird. Hold on. Let me look at these things. Is that all my banners? It can't be all my. They're weird. Where's all my other banners? Come on. I know I got more. Maybe I don't. Okay, well. Anyway. Well, I hope everybody's having a good day. I had a pretty good day. I am redoing Johnny Ghosh. He disappeared in 1982. He was a paper boy. 2 years later, another paper boy in Des Moines, Iowa was kidnapped. 2 years after that, another boy was kidnapped. He was a paper boy, but he wasn't kidnapped while he was doing papers. And that's a revisit. We're going to revisit that. Again, the case has obviously gone nowhere. It's not going to go nowhere. It's not going to. Johnny Ghosh's mother is, God love her. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. His mother is, God love her. Yeah, we just say anything after this. We'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Okay, there y'all are. Y'all show back up. And let me pull these photos up. And that would be, Catherine has taught me how to do this all by myself. When they're little. Well, you know what, Peggy? Honestly, with that poor boy, he's been seen everywhere. His mother has come up, and I get it. I think I get it. Her son went out to deliver papers and never came home. She has blamed her husband at the time, his father, for that, saying that he usually went with Johnny to deliver the papers. And this was on a Sunday. So a lot of more people get Sunday papers than they do, the rest of the week. So he was supposed to go with his son, and his mom said that they received a phone call and that night, and he was going, yeah, okay, I get it. didn't go with him the next day. Oh, Lacey. Yes, there's that, Lacey, as well. She claims that he visited her. I've got it. I can't remember. He would have been, let me think, 27, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Him and another guy came to her door at night. She talked to him for what, like 20 minutes, maybe. He said that they had escaped and that he wasn't safe, and then turns around and wants to know answers, like where he is. And well, you said you talked to him, ma'am. I get it. You've lost your child. He's not been there for X amount. It's 40 some years now. I don't know what that does to a person. I hope I never know what that does to a person. It's one thing to have a child pass away, but to have one just vanish into thin air, and every horrible thing that you can think of might be happening, So we're going to revisit that. And then at the week after that, because I did have a poll and Johnny won, but the next week, Thelma Todd came in a very close second. So next week, we're going to cover actress Thelma Todd, who died in 1935. Was it an accident? Was it murder? We don't know. But we'll talk about that too. That's the golden age of Hollywood. That's where if I was supposed to be born in the UK, especially, London, if I wasn't supposed to be there, I was definitely supposed to be in old Hollywood. Let me, hold on. I got my little, oh Lord, that's last week. I didn't put my stuff in the folder. What in the world, Shannon? What in the world? You got all kinds of shit going on over here. Hold on. Y'all can see this is like I'll look at that later. I have no idea what that is. All right. Y'all ready? Time Traveler, aka Gotham. If you are not subscribed to Time Traveler, I wish you would. I wish you would do it. I want y'all to everybody subscribe to everybody. So I think where we left off was King George is crowned. Edward VII has kicked the bucket, and now we have King George, who wasn't supposed to be the king. Victor Albert was supposed to be the king, but he died of Asiatic flu. Flu. And so now we have George. So this has happened a couple times. In this one, we have somebody that wasn't a brother that was not supposed to be the king ended up the king. So Jeff Gannon, aka, hold on, Peggy, I got to write these things down when you do this. Why you do that, Jeff Gannon? Let me see. There was also, I found we'll go over that next week. We'll go over that Saturday night. I'm getting my brain is like, if you pour a gallon into a thimble, right? Something's going to, hey, Hags, you're going to get some spillage. And that's what will happen if I start going over this one. My brain will flick over. So, and I'm not going to go into a great deal about George V. Okay. He inherited the throne. He did okay. He did good. We had unfortunately, when Germany started invading, he had to get into the First World War. He had to do it. He had no other choice. What else was he going to do? Let's talk about him and his wife as parents. Horrible is the word that is used most. Cold, abusive, I'll say violent, but I mean, they were. They got somebody else to do it. Not the ideal parents. And when we start looking at these children, and you'll see. So we have Edward, Albert, I know there's 1,000 Alberts here. Henry, George, and John. They're the brothers. So Henry, that Queen Elizabeth's father, who was George VI, whose nickname was Albert, and Bertie. I know everybody in his family is either George or Alfie or Bertie, or it's very confusing. But he had a terrible stutter. If y'all have not watched The King's Speech, do it. It's a very good film. But he hated public speaking because he had a stutter. And it was a pretty good one. I mean, it was. Well, I didn't know that Henry, the third brother, also had a stutter. And he couldn't even pronounce the word R. George VI, which would be Elizabeth's dad, he could get away with R's if they were like the French R, but his brother couldn't do it at all. It came out as W. So there's some things going on here where these children, I'm just saying, being royal doesn't always mean your life is going to be good. And the more I read, I thought I knew a lot about Albert. I mean, not Albert. I'm sorry. I thought I knew a lot about Edward. He was a complete moron. Hey, Vicky, daughter, the mayor's daughter. Hey, my mom. Yeah, he was dumb as a rock. And isn't it funny how most of these princes, the firstborn, are dumb? I'm sorry. I didn't call you that. Your tutors called you that. I'm just agreeing with you. Dumb as a rock. Could not, again, there were ones that didn't even, one tutor wrote to, I think it was King George, and said, your son, I can't even begin to go through things with him because he doesn't know the words that I'm using. So I guess tutors are probably, maybe not the best, but we'll go through it. So I'm going to bring it up real quick. We're going to go through it. It ain't going to be long. I know it's Wednesday night. Okay, let's go. Here is Victoria. There is Albert. Shut up. Hold on. There's Victoria. There's her son, Edward VII. Then behind her is George V. And in her lap is little Edward, who they called David. I'm not going to get y'all up on that. We're just going to call him Edward. So we got the four right here. These are the four. I'll tell you what. I don't know what Queen Victoria was thinking. Her profile was absolutely hideous. Yeah, I had no chin. I can't. What are we going to do? This is another of George. Now, George, actually, I'll tell you this. Every other king has had an affair that I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why they do it. I guess because they can. But George's, Queen Mary was supposed to marry his brother, Albert Victor, who was supposed to be king. He died. They got engaged. He died 6 weeks later. But Queen Victoria really liked Princess Mary. And she said, you know what? You should just marry her. Although we don't have to go look. She's right there. We have her right over there. Just marry her. She's fine. Yeah, go and do it. And some places say that he was repulsed by this. Other places say that they formed this bond while they were grieving Victor Albert. They fell in love anyway. They fell in love. And this is how, all right, neither he nor Mary could really enunciate or share their feelings in person with each other. They just weren't comfortable doing that. But if he was away, he wrote her a letter every single day. And they were flowery, and they would talk about how much he loved her and all this. But then they got face to face, and she did the same thing. She couldn't do it either. But they wrote these beautiful letters to each other. And then they get in front of each other, and let me tell you, I know he actually, though, they say he did not have an affair. He truly loved Mary. Now, look, here we go. They're the children. That is Edward. That is, let's see, Edward, Albert, Henry, George, the Princess Mary, and Little John. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gotham. So these are the ones we're really going to be talking about. I mean, I can go to and tell you all the great things that George V did. He did. Let me tell you the one thing. I mean, he inherited, you know, I mean, if you're a king during a war, just like if you're a president during the war, things are, you're going to be preoccupied. Things are going to happen. But let me just tell you this about George V. So, I think it was Edward VII was known as the uncle of Europe because, thank you. So, Queen Victoria's 8 children, went out all over Europe, right? And literally, all these kings and queens, they were either her grandchildren or whatnot. So they had a cousin, and that cousin was Nicholas II, and he was the last Tsar of Russia. Now, the one thing that I can tell you about George V, it's the worst thing that I can tell you about him, except for he was a horrible father, is that when the Bolsheviks stormed the palace in Russia, right, they knew a revolution was coming. And Nicholas asked for asylum for him and his daughters and his wife and his one son. And George just didn't say anything. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He just didn't say anything. So this revolution was bubbling up. It was going to happen. There was no getting around it. And again, they were asked to take in Nicholas II and his family. And George V, this is his favorite cousin, his best friend. This is what George V called Nicholas. My best friend, my favorite everything. They were like this, right? And George did not say anything. He did not grant him anything. Well, it didn't end well for Nicholas and his family. If you will remember, if you don't, it's Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia. They were loaded up, rounded up, him and his girls, and his wife and his son. And they were taken out. They were put in they didn't kill him right away. But eventually they put him in a basement somewhere, and they just they killed every one of them. George let his best friend, his closest friend, be murdered. Hey, Susan. That's what I can tell you about George V. If you don't know anything else about George V, he could have done that. He could have given them asylum. He just didn't. I think he tried to blame it on other, people. No, it was you. It was you. You did not do it. And then when they were murdered, he said, well, we could have extracted them anyway. Well, you didn't have to extract them when they first started noticing something was up, sir. But you didn't. And you just, it's not like you said you didn't. You just didn't. That's all I'll say about him. I mean, I could go longer. That's all you need to know about him. I mean, he did. All right. And so then we have the World War II, right? I'm sorry, one. What am I thinking about? We have World War I. Germany, for the first time, is acting an ass and wanting to take over the whole world. Don't know what they were thinking, but whatever. So you have the House of Saxe, Coburg, Gotha. three of the most German names you can think of. Why did they have these names? When Victoria married Albert, she took his name for some ungodly reason. I literally have got more. I have more English blood in me than the Queen or King now. Just saying, I'm pure than her. So with all of the anti-German sentiment that was going on, I mean, they were rounding up Germans and beating them up. This is in London. They were burning down German-owned businesses. George said, I think we might need to redo this name. This name probably needs, So on July 17th, and I'm going to read it to you. I've got the original copy. All right. I'm going to read you July 17th, 1917. George V issued a royal proclamation. Now, therefore, we, out of our royal will and authority, do hereby declare and announce that is from the date of this royal proclamation, our house and family will be styled and known as the House and Family of Windsor, and all the descendants in the male line of our said godmother, Queen Victoria, are subjects of these realms, other than the female descendants who may marry and take their husband's name. Now, if you watch The Crown, you will remember when George VI died and Elizabeth became queen, which anyway. Lord Mountbatten, we're going to talk about that one too, but not today. Because he had given Prince Philip his name of Mountbatten, because pretty much Prince Philip was from a long, old, overdone, overruled family. So Mountbatten gave Philip his name. And so Lord Mountbatten really thought that it was going to be the House of Mountbatten. He was a cousin of the Queen. He really thought that. He thought, oh my, he celebrated. If we watched The Crown, he celebrated it. The House of Mountbatten, because in the proclamation it said the females, could take their husbands. And that's when Mr. Churchill got to hold to Elizabeth and said, no. And that name came from Windsor Castle, which was their favorite place to go. That's why they picked the name Windsor. And that's why it's Windsor today. So we have now gone from the House of Saxe-Coburg, Gotha, to now the House of Windsor. We are officially in there, okay? Yay, I didn't think we'd ever make it, but we did. We did make it. Now, let me just say this. When World War I happened, all of Edward's brothers they all had to go, when they were really small, to the College of Royal Naval, whatever. College to them and to us, two completely different things. They were there when they were 13, 14. It's not the same over here. You don't go through, and just at 13 go to college. We don't do that over here. So every one of them had like a little bit of military experience. But Prince Edward, he really wanted to go to the front lines. He wanted to fight, right? And everybody said, you can't do that. You're the future king of England. You can't do that. But all your brothers are going to go. Bertie, your second brother's going to go. Oh, they're all going to go. One's going to die. I don't mean to do that. hey, legends. But yeah, they wouldn't let him. But here's what he would do. They would let him close enough to the front. I'm talking about Edward. They would let him close enough, right, to the front lines where there wasn't really much going on. He could go meet everybody and shake their hands. And when he got done doing that, he would go to Paris. while he was in Paris, he was seeing a married woman. Yeah, I'm not going to, I mean, I can give you the name. It doesn't matter. That's where he was. He would go to the front lines when things were all calmed down, and then he would go to Paris with his married lover, and then he would go back, and the king and queen heard about this. They were absolutely like, oh my God, this kid. Little did they know that this little asshole was going to do this to the bitter end. But I don't want to get too far ahead. Eventually, in 1923, I believe, Edward liked to write letters. He liked to write the letters about, thighs and boobs and crevices and where he want to crawl in. But in 1923, that mistress, who was married to, I think, a Saudi Arabian, maybe not, she ended up shooting him and killing him in the Ritz. And there was a big trial, and luckily Edward's name wasn't mentioned. So that was their first brush with, oh shit, he's an idiot. All right. I'm gonna go straight to John. These are the brothers. Let me see. There's George over here on the left, Edward, Bertie, and then Henry. So there they are, and look at Edward's little tights. So cute. So cute. Here's a picture of him doing absolutely nothing. Hey, raindrop, my sun, my moon, my stars, I love you. So here's a picture of him in his little uniform when he would go and see. Okay. Now this is probably one of the last photos of the entire family. And if you've noticed, we've added a little John, right? Sitting beside Mary over here on the left. Now, at 4 years old, little John began to have epileptic seizures. And they were pretty bad epileptic seizures. And they had hoped that he would outgrow them. I think I told y'all last week where King George ruled his children with an iron fist. He said, I was scared of my father. I want my children to be terrified of me. And he did that. And I think it was Woodrow Wilson came to visit. And George even said, these are very obedient children, except for John. Watch this. John, don't touch that vase. John would go right over and touch it. And then King George would laugh about it. Other ones he would have killed. But when it became very clear that John was not going to outgrow these epileptic seizures, they moved him. I think they say the last time he was maybe he was 11 when they moved him to a house at Sandringham Estate. And they moved him with, let me see, can't remember her name, a nanny that absolutely adored that child, took care of that child when nobody else could really be, bothered with him. Hold on, I'll find it. He's a cute little boy. But he got taken there, and because when he had these epileptic seizures, it scared the other children, and it upset him so much that they just said, okay, we'll just ship him over. His nanny was Charlotte Lala Bill. That's what he called her, Lala. I think all the children called her that. And so Charlotte and John went to live at a pretty nice house. I tried to look it up. I found it's very hard to get photographs of Sandringham, because it said that this particular home looked over the ocean. No, it don't. I looked at it don't. It's very nice, don't get me wrong, but it didn't look over the ocean. Visitors that would come to this Sandringham would see him And they described him as a boy that was very far away. It was about a mile away from the castle. And they would see him far off in the distance. And that's all they knew about him. And this is like visitors or whatever. I don't know how many times his father or his mother visited. I have no idea. He had an aunt that did quite a lot. But he was basically put out there to get away. I mean, they didn't want him around. I don't think it's that they didn't want him around. He just leaves the whole. There were no photographs here. Every year, these children got birthday portraits. He didn't. He wasn't included in any of the photos after a certain amount of time. He was just not spoken of again. They would have kids from the surrounding towns come and play with him. He had friends. In fact, I watched an interview with she was a girl, and she would come play with him, and she talked about how sweet he was. He was the sweetest kid ever. They said in a lot of things that he was slow and whatnot. She said he wasn't slow. There was nothing wrong with him besides he had epileptic seizures. He wasn't, the words they use. I'm not going to use them here. But they kept getting worse. The seizures kept getting worse and worse and worse. And still he's out there. Now, Edward is 11 years older than John. So Edward didn't really know him that well because he was taken away. He was taken to this house and literally erased from history until we'll get to that. So the seizures kept getting worse. They moved him out here with Lala. I'll just call her that. So the last time that this child was seen, let me show you some more pictures of him. Look at that. Would you look? What a little angel. This is him on a horse. Don't ask me why he's got that on. This is him at 11. And if you look at it, it says Johnny. Hold on. There we go. It says Johnny here at the bottom. But tall boy. Pretty tall kid. All right, so let's do this. On Christmas Day, 1918, John spent Christmas with his family at Sandringham. In the evening, he was driven back to Wood Farm. That's the lodge. Less than a month later, on January 18th, 1919, Prince John died from a severe seizure in his sleep. He was just 13 years old. Lala had to break the news to Queen Mary, who they say was grief-stricken for the rest of her life. Writing in her diary, the news gave me a great shock. Thou for the little boy's restless soul, death came as a relief. Not what I would have put in my diary, that the little boy's death has come as a relief, but that was Mary's take on it. Now, Edward made several to his girlfriend. He had a new one. Let's look at her. This is where he's buried. I think it's outside of Windsor. It's not, inside. Austin Matthews, get the fuck out of here. This is Henry. All right, let's just do this. We'll go through the kids. This is Henry. Hold on. Henry's the one that had the stutter almost as bad as Bertie. This is Henry with his lovely wife and child. This is George. This will be the third son. Fourth son. Fourth son. George is very handsome. If you look, very handsome. Okay. He was also very bisexual. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying, nothing wrong with that, George. Hey, you get up to whatever you get up to. But it was said that he was bisexual. He finally did get married. He and Edward would run around together. I'm going to show you a picture. Hold on. That's it. I think he was that sexy. That's that little asshole. Hold on. Here we go. This is a photograph right here. This is Edward between two of his mistresses, with George there being a wingman. This is, yes, you heard me correctly. This is Edward between one mistress and then another mistress, both married. And there's George as his wingman. So George would go with Edward when he toured, the world. He would go. That's the one that would go. So they were pretty close. But yeah, and don't both of the women just look satisfied and whatnot. I'm telling you what, they sure do. They sure do. Let's go back up to Henry, though. All right. So Henry is the one that also had a speech impediment, just like Albert, aka George VI. And I mean, he's got these people led very boring lives. I mean, he was very sickly. In fact, the king had to write the tutor to remind the tutor that not to let him play with the other robust children because he was weak, or he had to have leg things. He had knocked knees, so he had to have leg splints for a long time. Again, pretty boring guy. Sorry, I was like, hey, flies. One really interesting thing about this, though, he and Edward went to Africa on a little tour, and they parted ways right in the middle of Africa. I think Edward went back. He stayed with some friends, Mansfield and Beryl. Let me find it. Yeah, Mansfield and Beryl Markham is who he stayed with in Africa. Well, Henry and Beryl got along very nicely, and they began to have an affair right in the man's house. I mean, these people, I cannot. So, upon him returning to the UK, her in tow, Beryl in tow, the queen absolutely lost her mind because he had done this. And as a result of this, obviously Beryl and Mansfield got a divorce, but in the divorce, Mansfield had all the letters that Henry and Beryl would write to each other. He had them. Basically, what he told Henry was, you're going to take care of her, all right, till the day she dies. And if you do, you ain't got no problem for me. And so from that day on, Beryl got a monthly allowance out of Henry's pocket. Now, he died in 1974. She didn't die till 1984, but she got it until the day she died. Oh, yeah. So they must have been some good ass letters. But Mansfield made sure that he will go pay her. Henry was going to pay her, and Henry did. That's the only interesting thing about Henry I could find, is that he had an affair with a married woman. I don't know why these motherfuckers think they can do that, but they do. And when they divorced, the father said, yeah, you go pay for it. You go do it. All right, so now we'll go to Prince George. And there he is. I think he's hot. He's hot. This is George Edward Alexander Edmund. These people. If you don't have Edward, George, or Albert in the fucking name, it ain't right. Fourth son of it. He was granted the Duke of Kent in 1934. He served in the Royal Navy, and then he went to the Air Force. He was very close. They would travel together. I think I've already done this. Mistress says George was reportedly bisexual, carried on affairs with both men and women. He was rumored to be addicted to morphine and cocaine. You go, George. I mean, you got to live. You got to live a little bit. He got married in November of 1934. He married his second cousin. I think I have a picture of her. That ain't her. That isn't her. I don't even think. Nope. Yep, there she is. I don't know why she's buried so deeply in here. Sorry, we're gonna go back. I don't know why I put my pictures on so oddly even to me. So they got married. They had 2 sons. He in August 25th of 1942, he and 14 others took off in a Royal Air Force flying boat to Iceland on a non-operational duty, and the aircraft crashed on the hillside in Scotland. All were killed but one. He was 39 years old, and his death marked the first in 450 years of a royal member dying on active duty. His son became the Duke of Kent at 6 years old. I'm pretty sure I've got some photos of this. Let me show you. And if you look at these, why did I put them in this effed up way? Here is the Duke of Kent. Remember, he was 6 years old when he got it from his dad. This was, I guess, this must have been George V's funeral. But there's a boy. A boy. You see, everybody else has been in the army. They got all this shit, Here he is, a child, having to follow behind his grandfather's. Let's not get into her yet. All right, so we've talked about John, who passed away at 13. We have Edward. Nothing. I got nothing for that one. We have George, who died at 39. We've got Henry, who had it so good he had to pay this woman till she was dead. And then we have the sister, Mary. Let me find her. Why do I do things like this? I think that's Mary. I can't remember. She's the only girl. She was very close to Edward, very close to Edward. And when the abdication came, she was pretty much on his side. And she and her husband would go, they'd meet the Duke and Duchess in New York or in France, wherever they were. She was that close. When she got an invitation to Princess Elizabeth's marriage, her wedding, she turned it down because her brother and her sister-in-law didn't get one. But don't get it twisted, because by the time it was Elizabeth's coronation, she'd come off that high horse and she showed up. She was philanthropic. She was the head of a lot of charities and just, these royals, they get up to some stuff. But let's get into these hookers. Let's go. And there's Mary right there. Okay, we're going to start out with this one. This is the very first prominent married woman, Frida Dudley Ward. Now, are we ready for this? Let me get it ready. She was married to William Dudley Moore. They had 2 daughters. Now, they met at Belgrave Square. So this was during World War I. And she and a friend were walking down the street at night, and they got an alert. A German Zeppelin, a blimp, was in the area. So they ran into this doorway, and they looked, and there was a party going on, behind the doors of this house. So they sought refuge in the door, right? And then they could see all of the guests rushing down to the basement because this was a bomb threat. And so the hostess said, "You two, come down here, come down to the basement." So they're sitting in the basement, and Prince Edward starts to talk to her like, "How are you? Where do you live? Whatnot." And then when the lights came on, he really did like what he saw. So he would start just showing up at her house. Why not? Now, he did the same thing to Simpson, to Wallis Simpson. But he walked her back to her home that night, and then he would come and visit, and he would send her things, David called on her the next day. I say David because that's what they called him. Yeah. This affair went on for 16 years. 16 years. He loved her. He loved her little daughters. She was petite and pretty with periwinkle eyes. She built him up. He was not a big man. I don't think he had a lot of character. In fact, I know he didn't have a lot of character. So she made him feel good about himself. He was pretty charismatic. He was pretty charming. I have to say that. Well, if we go back and look at these things, it's him like going to get back to him. Shit. He went and visited like veterans. Okay, I'll give him that. He shook so many hands one time that he couldn't use his right hand, but he could use the left hand, and he continued to do it. Here's the thing that Edward didn't like. Edward didn't like ceremonial bullshit. He didn't want to do it. He didn't like it. Like the debutantes being presented to the king and queen, all that, and they stand there. A debutante walks up, she bows, they bow, and they walk off. That's being received at court. He effing hated that. In fact, in the 11 months where he was actually king, I think he did away with it, but I could be wrong. So he liked everything about being a prince except for everything he had to do. No. But they would find ways to communicate every day. It's either phone calls, and I'm going to read. I was gonna wait. I'm gonna read you an excerpt from a letter. Now you are going to find you're gonna say it sounds very familiar. Because Edward started pulling this shit back then about not wanting to be king. But we'll read a little bit from it. All right. He also kept a photo of her in a little red veil and a little red leather frame that he would either put on his bedside or in his pocket, and he would kiss it every night. I've got another story about that when we cover him. And he also called her mummy. He called her mummy. We'll just do that. I'll just leave. I'll drop that right there, and y'all can do whatever you want to do. So here is an excerpt from a letter from him. In the letter, he said, you ought to be really foul to me sometimes, sweetie, and curse and be cruel. It would do me worlds of good and bring me to my senses. In another letter, he asked her to give him in another letter. So he basically wanted her to be really mean to him and horrible. And now we know why he loved Wallis so much. But here it is in another letter. He said, give me to give that. Let me say that. I do need you so badly to chase me into the bed with a big, big stick. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't? Now, let me find. Now, think about this. 16 years of getting letters daily, calls 3 or 4 times a day, to where you're not really, how are you living your life, Frida? You're not going to marry him. He wants to, he hates his job. Let me see if I got that in here. Hold on. He wrote her letters talking about how much he hated this damn job, this horrible job. I hate this job. I can't do what I want to do. Bless your little heart, you dope. He was so stupid. Let me tell you some of the stuff he would write her. When she passed away, she kept every letter. Oh, yeah. She kept all the letters. And a couple went to auction. Yeah, a couple went to auction, and they were not in any way kind. There's some letters that we don't have the letter, but at one point, Edward wrote his mother following the death of his brother John. And I don't know, because no one has the letter, but they have the letter that he wrote after it, and where he apologizes because this was her son. And let's see, I'll read this to you. Hold on. Okay, so reading up. So he wrote his mistress. This is what he wrote to Miss Frida Dudley Ward. He had, let me see. He wrote to his mistress at that time. He had told her all about that little brother and how he was an epileptic. I'm going to get into that in a minute. John's been practically shut up for the last 2 years. Anyhow, this is his words. So no one has really seen him except the family, and only once a year or twice a year. So he wrote to his mother. We don't know what he said. Again, we don't know what he said. But after he wrote it, when she didn't reply, he wrote another letter, and this is the apology. I feel such a cold-hearted and unsympathetic swine for writing all that I did. No one can realize more than you how little poor Johnny meant, what little poor Johnny meant to me, and I hardly knew him. I feel so much for you, darling mama, who was his mom. So whatever he wrote was so vile that he wrote a woman that he pretty much hated. He hated his father. He hated his mother. We're going to go through, if I can find him here. All right, here's some of the letter. It's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. One of this, he said, I do resent the separation, and I do miss you so this evening, my precious one. I feel so lost, sweetie. I've been thinking of you so much, sweetheart, since we parted, and I am so happy I took you to the station. Darling, darling, I can't even start to thank you for and bless you for all of your divine, marvelous sweetness. Here's another passage. I can never tell you how madly and desperately I love you, darling. And you know it, and how you mean absolutely all and everything to me in life. Nothing else seems to matter now, not even my bloody job, of which I am so sick. And then up here again, he writes, sweetie, I am so sick of my bloody job. This was when he was out shaking hands with men who almost died, veterans. And then he said that John, when he wrote Frida about little John, he said he was nothing more than an animal. He was nothing more than an animal, the poor little thing. He was just an animal. Having not seen him, probably, God, I don't even know when. I don't know if he was there for Christmas to see him that year, but he called him an animal, basically, to his girlfriend. So, yeah. So anyway, Frida left her husband, but still that wasn't going to bring them together. So this is through the World War into the 20s and almost into the 30s. Well, then he met another woman named Thelma Furness, and she was the Viscountess Furness. And this is, let's see, she is over here in the middle between George and Edward. What's this thing? All right, so this is Frida. Frida is very good. Look at her. Look at her. Girl, you know. This is her getting married. I don't think she knew him yet. This is her between Edward and Bertie, which would be Queen Elizabeth's father. She was well known. Like they knew. That was like, yes, 30s. This is her accompanying him to Canada to open something. There she is in all of her glory. And George and Queen Mary were like, what, dude, stop it. You've got to, you're going to be the king. You have got to find a wife. You've got to settle down. You got to stop with this. This is crazy. Stop dating women, married women. He took the bitch on a trip. Oh, I got to open a bridge. Come with me. What the hell? What are they going to do? They ain't going to do nothing. Here they are again. I think that's Harry. It looks like that might be Henry on the other side. These are the letters. The 16 years of letters. Okay. Here's Miss Furness, not the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen, but look, hey, I'm not judging. Here they are. There's this famous picture where they're all double dating, even though he's the only one screwing both of them. All right, we're going to go back. So Miss Thelma Furness, her identical twin, get this shit. Her identical twin was Gloria Vanderbilt's mother, Anderson Cooper's grandmother. Would have been a grandmother. And her name was Gloria as well. They were twins. So both married rather well. So she first met the prince at a house party in 1926. Then they met again in June of 1929. He asked her to dinner, and they met regularly. She joined him on safari in Africa in the early 30s. Upon Edward's return in April of 1930, she was his regular weekend companion at his newly acquired Fort Belvedere. So, Fort Belvedere was his favorite place. That's where he lived. Prince Charles had Clarence House. David had Fort Belvedere, and he would have weekend parties. If you don't know what weekend parties are, you show up on Friday. You have a little dinner, do a little dancing. Saturday, you might go shooting, with a dinner and a little dancing at the end, and everybody goes on Sunday. So that is where she met him again. So we're there. Belvedere. Okay. And she was with him until January 1934. I'm winking. I'm winking at you. On January 10th. On January 10th of 1931, at her country home, Borough Court, Furness introduced the prince to her close friend, Wallis Simpson. Wallis and her husband, Ernest, were at this party. And while visiting her sister in America, she told Wallis to, quote, this was in March of 1934, keep an eye on the little man for me. Well, Wallis did. So reacting to Edward's call. So when she came back from England, she could tell something is not right. Edward, what happened, darling? Well, Wallis Simpson had happened. So, but I want to tell you, Miss Frida, let me end this real quick. So Furness died in New York City on January 29th, 1970. Her niece, Gloria Vanderbilt, the one we all know and love, she dropped dead on 73rd and Lexington on her way to see the doctor. In her bag was a miniature teddy bear that the Prince of Wales had given her years and years before. When she came to America, he gave her a little teddy bear, and that she had worn it down to the nub. I could absolutely see myself dressed like that. No, probably not. I'd have to wear a girdle, and I'm not doing that. But let me tell you how Miss Frida found out that there was no more with them. her daughter had, this is 16 years, okay? Her daughter had an appendicitis. And back then, that was a pretty big thing. And so they had the attack appendicitis, the surgery, and she had been nursing her little daughter back to health, okay? And then she realized, I've not heard from Edward in a minute. And that's odd. He usually calls me 45 times a day. So she calls Edward, and there's a switchboard and the woman on the switchboard who has spoken to this woman multiple times a day for the last 16 years said, oh, honey, I do not want to be the one to tell you this. And Frida's like, what? I don't want to tell you this, but Edward has told me not to let your calls through anymore. So Frida literally never spoke to him again. That's how cutthroat he was. Hello, Bubblegum Truth. I mean, the switchboard woman had to tell her. He didn't. Oh, I don't want to have to tell you this. Oh, he told me not to put your calls through. Edward, I don't know. I'm going to show you this one more picture. This is where I'm going to end it. Because next we're going to go through, when I do this the next time, and I'll put it up, we're going to go straight through Wallis. So in America and everywhere else, the world knew about Wallis Simpson and Edward, at the time, the Prince of Wales. They knew. It was in every newspaper around the world, except for the UK, where they granted him, think about this, not like that now, but they basically protected him. So they did not publish the photographs of him and Wallis Simpson on vacation, skiing, or on a boat, or on they didn't post them in England. But Wallis's aunt was sending her clippings the whole time of what was in American papers. I don't know how you don't. I mean, at this point in history, I don't know. If we're talking about that now, well, we also have the internet. I don't know how you would keep an entire country from knowing what their future king is doing. But apparently in 1930, it was very easy to do that. So, sorry, as you know, they dated for about 2 years. And his father died in 1936. But this photograph right here, this photograph is what broke through, because she is touching his arm. That was the touch heard round the world. That is what broke this story in the UK, her touching his arm that way. Because in every other photograph, they were never really touching. They were like, she was behind him, she was whatever. But this is the photograph that absolutely set it off. Her touching his arm. And that is when the UK found out about it. It was no keeping it a secret then. And look at her. God. I'm pretty sure I don't have one after this. I don't think I have another one. I think I stopped. I don't have another. This is the one. I put this up because this is the touch heard around the world that broke it up. So what we have here is Edward, who never wanted to be king at all, couldn't be bothered with it. He loved a lot of things about the job, like the power, like the, Fort Belvedere, and having anything you ever wanted. But he just didn't want to go through the day-to-day. I don't want to look at the box today. Oh, what is it? You know what I'm saying? He didn't want, he didn't care. So there is, we'll talk about this later when we do this. There's I've got the Traitor King up there, and I've read the Traitor King. But the first chapter talks about him actually reading his abdication on the radio. Mind you, Wallis Simpson was not there. She had escaped to France because people were trying to kill her. All right. She was, though, at the announcement when they announced that George had died and Edward was now king. She was there, and we have there's a photograph of that. Well, it's actually not a photograph. It's a thing. Let me show you. Hold on. I did get some of these. I got these little bitty things of, let me see. Is it sharing? Is it screen share? We'll do this one. This just shows him making his first flight. I mean, it's just, him. This is what he loved.
Thousands waited to give a real West Country welcome to the royal car as King
He loved that.
These pictures recall those of 1919, when the Prince of Wales, as landlord of the estates, paid his first visit to the Duchy of Cornwall. The Prince of Wales
hated all that.
And these West Countrymen were his tenants.
Hated that. He hated it. Let's see. We'll look at another one. These are the things he did not care for. Let me get you another one. I got another one up here. Hold on. I got another one of him. Here he is in the 1930s. What's he doing in this one? What you doing in this one, boy? Oh, yeah. Is that the same one? No, he's meeting disabled veterans. Now, he didn't mind. You see how he's shaking with the wrong hand? He had actually hurt himself. And now you see him doing with that. He liked that, and they loved him. The working class really loved him, for sure. I'm not going to pay you. This is 14. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's a little bit. Let's play this one. Here's a little bit of his voice. I mean, I've heard his voice, but y'all might not have heard him. His little whiny voice. Hold on. Let's see. I'll go, bro. Nope, it's silent. Never mind. Never mind. So he liked doing that. So he liked doing what he wanted to do. He loved doing what he wanted to do. He just didn't want to do anything else. So, he's already writing Frida 16 years ago. I hate this bloody job. All I want to do is be with you. Right. And I was going to read that, and I was going to, y'all were going to think, okay, they wrote that to Wallis. Oh, no. No, he wrote that. No. Wheels is hoping you might do a live stream on the Russian Tsar and his family. I would love to do that. I have got, let me show you a photograph. When I'm doing Mountbatten, Lord Mountbatten, when Lord Mountbatten was a child, let me find that. Let me grab that photograph really quick. He was in love with one of Nicholas. His daughters were beyond beautiful. There's no other word for it. Let me try to pull up a photograph of her. Insert. Hold on. This is the one that this girl died at 16. Lord Mountbatten, was killed by the IRA, I think he was in his 80s or 70s or 80s. Let me find you a picture of this girl. This photograph stayed on his bedside the rest of his life. And it is of, let me find her. Wait, there she go. All right, this girl was absolutely beautiful. I can see. And let me see if I can screen share that. Screen share. Look at this girl. Can y'all see her? Let me see if y'all can see her. You can. Let me make it bigger. I can't make it bigger. Okay, damn it. I mean, she is this is just one of his daughters, but that's who Lord Mountbatten was in love with his whole life. And that was one of Nicholas's children. Can I please not be that big? Thank you. I'm very large. But I can cover that. I can. I'll go through all this. I'll go through all of it. That, oh God, Anastasia. Y'all remember Anastasia? That's one of the daughters. They couldn't find her. And I think the boy, I think it was the boy they couldn't find when they dumped Nicholas and his family out in the thing. And to their, yeah, a girl showed up a couple years later in France and said that she was Anastasia. And they didn't have any DNA back then. Now that woman actually married, I think, somebody that a teacher or something at UVA, which is about an hour and a half from me. When she died, we found out that she was not Anastasia, but they found her body. They found her in the boy's body. So yeah, but they were beautiful. And knowing what George did to that family, his best friend, his whatever, he just didn't give them anything. And then when they were murdered, he felt really bad. He never got over it. Well, you shouldn't have gotten over it. You know, come on. You shouldn't have gotten over it. So now when I see like the horrible things, let me find his little Edwards racist stuff. Oh God, that's a lot. I had them all written down, and then I put them up. I thought, man, I'll get a damn copyright strike reading this shit from him. See if I can find it. I hope I brought it down here. He said that Aborigines in Australia were basically monkeys. They were so ugly. He wrote that in a letter to Frida. Basically, yeah, they were just no better than monkeys, and they smelled. He said of the people in his realm that were helping build the Panama Canal, that they were stupid and they stank. He said a lot. He was a keen racist. He really didn't care for anybody that let me see. Hold on. I wrote them down specific too, because it just goes to his character. It goes to his character. And then when we go through the end, through the end of his life, and how mean Wallis Simpson was to him, and he would say, am I gonna go to bed crying tonight again? When she would be mean to him, even though he liked that shit. Yeah, Mountain Mama, that's yeah. I mean, look, there are historians that refer to him as a stupid man. He was stupid. Let me see. I don't know. I've got all this shit written down. Yeah, this is when they were talking about John being painfully slow, and that girl that was his friend said he wasn't slow. He was absolutely fine. Beautiful little boy. Hold on. Where are you little racist things there, dummy? Where I put you? He loved. That's why I don't feel bad for him. I really don't. Wallis, I don't think Wallis loved him. I think, what do you do when you're caught up in the world's most lovely love story and you can't stand the little son of a bitch? She tried to get away from him, I don't know how many times. And he would just say, oh, if you do, I'm going to kill myself. If you do, I'm going to kill myself. All right, here we go. I think we got it. Get ready for some of his racist remarks. So, let's see, September of 1918, this is of Italians. They are indeed a repulsive nation, these Dogis, which is somebody that speaks Italian, Spanish, or Portuguese, both the men and the women. I'm just longing to quit them good and all. I'm just ready to quit them. So now we're in Barbados, another territory. And this was in 1920. A proper bum island, this Barbados. It's a unique sort of scenery, very ugly. I didn't take much to the colored population who are revolting. Yeah. Here's another one. This was in Nassau. It must be remembered that DuPage, I don't know what that is more than, oh, he was the, all right, this was the guy, this was the editor of the paper in Nassau. It's to remember that DuPage is more than half Negro, and due to the particular mentality of this race, they seem unable to rise to prominence without losing their equilibrium. In 1919 in Saskatchewan with the Canadian Indians, I've told you about the foul, decadent, lazy crowd they are and what I think of them. But this camp is pitched right inside an Indian reservation, and we have hundreds of the moldy local tribe camped around us. Here we go with Panama, 1920. These are all letters he wrote to his girlfriend there. A deadly spot. The end of the world almost. There are 20,000 British colored people working on the canal. They are mostly from Jamaica and smell too revolting for words. The Panamanians are a queer people, all Diegos, of course, though very pompous and dirty. That's the ones we know of. I'm sure in those letters over the 16 years, there's probably a lot more than that, but these are the ones. So not only was he a little idiot, not only did he have no character, not only was he completely unfeeling about anything around him, he was also a racist. He was never going to have, this is another thing too, before we go. He was never going to have children. He had said this. This is why he fooled around with married women, that he was not going to have children because of the way he was raised and his father. He did not want children. So Elizabeth, unless we don't know what could have happened if Wallis had gone away and he became king and he met a nice single lady and he could have had an heir. Possibility. It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. But it really doesn't matter because either way, Elizabeth would have been queen either way. Eventually, because it would have gone, if Edward had died, it would have gone to his brother Albert, aka George VI, and then when he died, it would have gone to Elizabeth. So it was always going to go there, and King George V wanted it to go there. He loved Bertie, and he loved Elizabeth, his granddaughter. And he wanted it to jump over David, a.k.a. Edward. And then, I've told y'all that right before the king died, he said, 12 months after I'm dead, that boy going to ruin himself. And it only took 11 months. His dad had him down to rights. It only took 11 months for him to abdicate for this woman. That woman. So I feel like we've touched on just a little bit of history, but I'm not going to read you their bios. Y'all don't care. We're going to jump right into next time. We're going to go through Wallis and him. What did you call it? Dating? I don't know what you call it. Her divorce, because she had to have a divorce. So what happened was David, and it couldn't be tied to the monarchy. So her second husband said, okay, all right, I'll be the one. There was a friend of Wallis's that was visiting a lot. He said, I'll go get caught with her in bed. It'll be me. Wallis can get the divorce and I'm the bad guy. And that's what happened. She sued him for divorce. She didn't want to divorce him. There are letters from her to him basically saying what a mistake she made and that, she was basically screwed. This was it. I am fucked up. I'm never going to be able to leave this little asshole because this is the greatest love story in the world. So we're going to go through that. We're going to go through the wedding where nobody came. We'll touch on Germany. I'm not going to do that a lot. It is what it is. We'll touch on it, but I'm not. And then we're just going to go through their horrible life. Oh, is it a horrible life? I don't know if it was a horrible life or not. And then we will go to Bertie and Elizabeth. No, not Queen Elizabeth. Well, yeah, Queen Elizabeth. We're going to go. I didn't cover his brother, Albert, because we'll do that when we go past Wallis and Edward. So when Bertie became George VI, we'll go through that. And then we're going to go through every single mistake that Queen Elizabeth made. It was a lot. I love her, but it was a lot. It was a lot. She was told, when it came to Margaret, I'll remember Margaret, her sister, couldn't marry a divorced man. You couldn't even be. Let's think about this. When you are the king or queen of England, you are the head of the Church of England. The Church of England is very specific on where they stand on divorced people. You're not even supposed to have a divorced person in Buckingham Palace. David slipped Wallis in there one time where she met the king and queen. And when they found out, it wasn't good. So not only could you not marry a divorced person if the spouse was still alive. So when it came to Margaret, Elizabeth held on to that. No, you can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry, you can't do it. But then when it came to her own children, right? Because Margaret indeed married a guy and then she was the first royal to get divorced. But then we have Anne, Charles, and Andrew right behind her. And what this has caused. Yeah, Margaret was sad. She was another one that wasn't real bright. Which astonished me because if you would think that being the mother of the future queen and you are the queen at the time and you know how much your husband's got to know, why don't you send your daughter to a proper school? She learned how to sew. She learned, she didn't have to go to Cambridge all the time and be drilled in the Constitution. Yeah, and in all things, religious. She was the head of the Church of England. Margaret didn't even get a fourth of that education. So Margaret literally no self-awareness at all, dumb as a rock. Sorry, Margaret, but it's true. And a giant problem. A giant problem. Yeah, but she got that. Yeah, well, Anne, let me tell you, Anne, when she was younger, absolute knockout. Oh my God. And she probably is smarter than all of her brothers. Anne does more than I think Charles does. Her plate is so full with appearances. It's like, I can't even remember how many hundreds it is. She is the hardest working royal out there. Anne, believe it or not. I just wish she'd do something with that hair. But yeah, but she was a badass. She really was a badass back in the day. But then she was the first one of Elizabeth's children to get divorced. And like I said, why she... Charles and Diana. I understand perfectly that they were absolutely miserable. Charles had Camilla. She had whoever she had. I don't know. And it was never going to be a pleasant and but if I am Queen Elizabeth, I'm going to be looking at you like you are going to be the King of England. And now you don't want to be married to your wife, who is born the next King of England. Get over it. Get over it. and not A Hopper. That's what I would have done. I think that William and Kate are very, I hope he doesn't have affairs. I don't think he does. I love those two. I love William and Catherine. Yeah, I mean, the more this Epstein stuff comes out, and this is what started this whole thing. Once these Epstein files start coming out, we're going to see Andrew's name a whole lot more. All right, fear not. And now Congress wants Andrew over here to testify. Andrew is in a big, big, big problem because he's no longer protected by the crown. Meaning they will say he lives down there, instead of like, you can't, he's this. No, there's no more protection under the crown, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. You are now just a guy that lives down the street from and Sangrenham. You're like John. You're like John. You live down there. You don't have the protection of lawyers. You don't have the protection of anything. So your name's, we're gonna find out exactly what you are. Andrew, I know you watch it. I know you're a frequent watcher. Hey, I said, Mom. I know you're a frequent watcher, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Where your wife gonna go? Your wife can't come with you. Where's Fergie gonna go? You got problems, boy. I am going to get the book. Megan, let me think about that, Misty. I will agree that. Have you, Misty? Did you read Air and the Air and the Spare that Harry wrote? And if you didn't, I mean, that's fine. But if you read that book and you see how two totally who the Heir, which is William, and the Spare, Harry, were not treated the same way. They were not educated the same way. But Harry wasn't as smart as William, so But Harry was allowed to do a lot more than William was. Like Harry was, in Desert Storm. Is it Desert Storm? Nope. The last one we had with he was over there. He was flying Apaches. He got to do the things that William wanted to do. William couldn't do it because he was going to be the next king, so he couldn't. So, Harry was over there, and then when he realized that he was they knew, the Taliban knew that Harry was somewhere, all right, over there. They knew it, and they had a bounty on his head, and that is when he got a call and said, "You've got to leave. You've got to leave your men behind. You have to come back. They will kill all of them to get you," basically. And he came back. But William wanted to do everything that Harry did, but he couldn't do it. And then we have Catherine, and we have William and Catherine and Harry, and they were all great, good friends. And if you read the book, I mean, they were really great friends, all of them. And well, they really, Peggy, they ain't wrong. If you ever get to read the book, Misty, if you ever get to read the book, I'm trying to do this very nicely. I think Harry had a little bit of Edward in him, where he was fine. He was fine doing the he did the Olympus. Nope. The games with everybody that was injured. What is it? What is that? I can't remember now. Though he wanted to do, he did all his charities, right? But he wasn't protected from the press the way. In fact, he would go to his dad and he would say, "Dad, they've written this, shit about me, and it's not true. What are we going to do?" And his dad would go, "Nothing, darling boy. We can't do anything about it, darling boy. No, darling boy." And they would write some pretty horrible things about Harry. And every time he wanted to fight it, his dad would go, "Nope, we can't do it. We can't fight it. No." So he started getting really disillusioned with the whole thing. And then when he met Megan, I don't know if he saw it as a way out. I mean, I hope they're in love. I hope they're in love. But then when his family wasn't protected, I think that's what made his mind up. If you read the book, it is her that they're asking in back in the in the palace what color the kids are going to be. Not like they didn't protect Diana. They didn't protect Diana. They didn't even get her ready for what she had to do. Now, Kate Middleton had her, they prepped her. She's perfectly fine. But they didn't even prep Megan either. So she's running around pregnant, wanting to die, just like Diana did. And there was, a royal can't go get help. A royal, even though Harry went to his therapist, but I don't know. It's definitely, I wish that the whole family could get back together and Harry just live his life the way he wants to, and then but they all be nice and see each other. I wish that would happen. I hope it happens. Maybe one day it'll happen. My thing is, if you're the king and you can't keep your own fucking house in order, what the fuck are you doing? You can't keep your own house in order, sir, and you want to be king of England, even though it's not really back in the day, yeah, the king was the guy. Now he's not. Now they're just like tourist attractions, basically. Okay, love, I'm going to end it right now. I'm going to run upstairs and end it right now. I've been going an hour and 36 minutes. This was going to go real fast, and it didn't, did it? All right, so thank y'all for coming. I will see y'all Saturday night. Johnny Ghosh, missing since 1982. Mark. There's 3 of them. Don't worry, I have my shit together then. That's what we'll do Saturday. I was thinking about starting an hour earlier Saturday at 8. I might do that. Check for that. I might change it and start at 8. And I can't remember why I was going to do that. No, thank y'all for coming. I just like to talk shit about royal people. It makes me feel better about myself. But all right. So I'll see you Saturday. For Johnny Ghost and the other 2 children. And the insanity that ensued after that. But be careful, be good, stay dry, stay warm. And I will see y'all soon. Thank y'all for coming. Bye. Goodbye, everybody.